We're going to do a quick and hard transition as I invite up Rabbi Jenna to give their first sermon here at 6 and 9. I just want to say that in addition to being just an all-around amazing human, they're also just a really great rabbi and incredible educator, and trust me when I say we all have a lot to learn from them, so I look forward to many sermons and learning much from you in the coming years. Thank you very much for sharing your wisdom tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I've never given a sermon surrounded by candy, so I feel like this is like a fun little adventure. Shabbat shalom, everyone. There are moments in life that feel quietly profound, full of anticipation, meaning, and deep gratitude. Standing here with you tonight is one of those moments. This is my first Shabbat as the rabbi of this extraordinary community. That alone would be enough to feel moved. But what makes this even more meaningful for me is that this Shabbat we read Parashat Eikev, the Torah portion that quite honestly changed the course of my personal Jewish journey. It was through this parsha that I first truly fell in love with Judaism, not just intellectually, but personally, spiritually, and even physically. Eikev opened the door for me to understand that Judaism is not just a tradition we inherit, it's a tradition we live, that we bring to life through our full selves. And that realization was the beginning of my path to being a rabbi, to here, to you, to this holy sanctuary. But before we go further into Torah, I want to take a moment to tell you a little bit about me. Yes, I am your new rabbi. And also, I am a diehard Cubs fan. I'm a huge theater nerd and art nerd. I'm a political wonk who still deeply believes in the power of people to create change. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm obsessed with fashion and fluffy dogs. And more than anything, I love dreaming about the world we all deserve to live in and building that world together. Growing up in Chicago, I was surrounded by theater. Improv comedy was practically a local language. Second City, storefront theaters, late night shows, and that, coupled with being friends with all the theater kids, one of the core lessons of my upbringing was the golden rule of improv. Yes, and. Yes, and is the foundational principle of the art form. The performers are instructed to only say yes and to what their scene partner has shared. Not yes, but, or yes. A truly wholehearted yes, and. Yes, and keeps the story alive. It honors what's been offered and adds something new. It's an act of trust, a way of saying, I see what you're giving me, and I'm willing to build something with you. I see what you're giving me, and I'm willing to build something with you. If your scene partner says, you're a detective in outer space, the correct response isn't, no? It's yes, and I just found an alien footprint on Mars. Yes, and in improv is what keeps the scene alive. It's how performers build something together in real time, by accepting what's offered and then adding something of their own. It's a principle rooted in collaboration, imagination, and trust. And over time, I came to see it as more than just a rule of theater. For me, yes, and has become a way of understanding Judaism. Because when Judaism is at its best, it doesn't just shut people out or flatten their differences. It doesn't simply say yes in a polite or passive way. Yes on its own is actually kind of boring. It's surface level, safe. Yes says, you're welcome here. But yes and goes a level deeper. It says, you belong here. And our tradition has something to say about who you are. And we believe that you have something vital to bring to Judaism itself. It welcomes real lives and real bodies. It invites us to bring our truth. And then it says, yes, and what will you bring to the sacred story? And then it says, yes, and what will you bring to the sacred story? That question, what will you bring, became personal for me when I was in college. I was a college sophomore, a really enthusiastic trans ally and closeted at the time. The basketball shorts and button-downs meant nothing. And then I stumbled across a teaching by Rabbi Ari Lev Fernari, a trans rabbi in Philadelphia, on this week's Parashat Eikev. In this Torah portion, we read the words of the Shema, and then it's followed by the verse, "You shall bind these words as a sign upon your hands, and let them be a symbol between your eyes." Traditionally, this is the basis for the mitzvah of tefillin, of physically wrapping sacred words on our bodies each day. But Rabbi Ari Lev offered a different, deeply personal interpretation. He wrote about reciting this verse as part of a daily ritual while binding his chest, something that many trans-masculine people do to hide the appearance of breasts. He described the act of binding not as something separate from Jewish tradition, but as a sacred ritual in and of itself, a way of connecting to his body, to God, and to Torah. Each morning, when some traditional Jews would recite these words and then wrap the Jewish ritual object of tefillin, Rabbi Ari Lev would say these holy words and then bind his chest, literally binding the words that called him to become closer to his fullest self. Reading that teaching unlocked something in me. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not only did I go out and buy my first binder, a decision that would quickly confirm I was, in fact, not a very enthusiastic ally, but I kept returning to a larger message, that Judaism can be expansive enough to hold the fullness of who we are, that ritual can be personal and authentic, that Jewish wisdom can meet us in our own language, in our bodies, in the truth of our lived experiences. And not only can it, it must. Because yes and is not some quirky modern innovation. It's the very core of our tradition. While my college self was struck by how radical Rabbi Ari Lev's interpretation was, the truth is, he's in good company. The idea was new, but the form was ancient. Tefillin itself is hardly described in the Torah. It's just a few poetic lines. But our sages, our early rabbis, as part of their project of world building in the midst of destruction and exile, took those words and did what they always did. They said, yes, this text is sacred, and here's how we'll bring it to our bodies in a moment of ungroundedness. And here's how we'll make it portable. And here's how it can shape the lives of an everyday Jew. That's what our tradition has always done. And that is what our tradition is at its best. When our ancestors stood at Mount Sinai receiving Torah, they said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do and we will hear. And that's a yes and moment if I've ever heard one. Yes, we will accept this covenant, and we will keep listening, keep growing, and keep learning what it means. You may not have the experience of chest binding, but I invite you to pause and reflect on your own story. What makes you you? What part of yourself is longing to be seen? What part has felt distant from Judaism, or like it didn't quite belong? Maybe you're not even Jewish. And still, this is the heart of what's building a new Judaism every single day. We are the ones shaping this tradition. Jews, people who love Jews, people who are curious about Judaism. Each of us has something to bring. Yes, you belong here. I'm going to say that again. Yes, you belong here. And you have a role to play in shaping this sacred story. Yes, and is what gave us this holy space and community in downtown DC. Rabbi Ari Lev teaches that Jewish ritual is ultimately about relationships, not just between us and God or Jewish tradition, but between us and ourselves, between us and our people, between us and the stories we carry. And when we approach Judaism through the lens of relationships, through yes and, we welcome each other in as well. So here we are, my first Shabbat with all of you. And I want to tell you a little bit about the kind of Judaism I believe in. I believe in a Judaism that says yes and to real lives. A Judaism that honors the past and keeps building forward. A Judaism that makes space for new voices, for joy, for doubt, for discovery. A Judaism that is rooted in relationship and alive with meaning. A Judaism where you matter, every single person in this room, no matter your identity, religion, political beliefs, or your story. And that's the work I'm here to do with all of you. And I can't wait to meet you and build that world, that Jewish community, and the future of 6th and I together. Shabbat Shalom.